What's going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's Farmers Insurance Open. Going to go through the bottom half of the pricing board, the Draftkings players priced $8,000 and below that I have my eye on for some of these large field GPPs. These four players not only bring you a solid floor, but also that top end upside that we're looking for in GPPs, and are players that you at the very least might want to consider for your personal player pool. So we don't have much time to lock. If you guys don't know, we have an early Wednesday start. So make sure to get your lineups in, all of your bets. So that's why a lot of this content coming out a little bit earlier than usual. That includes our stream, which will be tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time, rather than the usual time slot on Wednesday at 7. So make sure to keep all of that in mind when you're going out there and building your lineups. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into the value picks. Alrighty, boys, our first value pick this week is going to be Taylor Pendrith at $7,900, and he's got the off the tee play we're looking for, one of the more prolific gainers, both in terms of his distance and his accuracy off the tee. One of the few players on tour that can go out there, hit about your tour average in terms of fairway percentage, and get it out there 300, 320 yards. So that's the real asset that I'm looking at there, but outside of that, just a sort of pedigree player that should be in that 8K range, but is in a little bit of a slump. We know that he's much better than Adam Hadwin, and honestly, when he's firing in all cylinders, he's the sort of like a Cam Davis, Mad McNeely sort of player that can get into contention, and I think at least once, twice over the next few years, you're going to see breakthrough for a few victories. So Pendy, I'm high on in terms of his long-term outlook, but you look at some of the recent form metrics, and you'll see why he's priced down, right? Still gaining a bunch off the tee, but the putter's gone to a negative. He's never the best around the green player, but when Pendy is going out there, getting into contention, playing his best golf, he's hitting a bunch of greens, he's smashing the ball off the tee, and if you've seen the course breakdown this week, that's pretty much exactly what we're looking for. Players that can leverage their distance, take on a 7,800-yard golf course, and also hit some of those tiny greens and really tricky around the green shots that you have at the South Course. For Pendrith, I do worry about around the green for him, but the one thing I do have to say is for, a top-end talent, somebody to finish in the top 5, top 10, we're hoping that they're not missing all that many greens to begin with, especially a ball striker like somebody like a Taylor Pendrith. So $7,900, I see his avenue to success. He's got the prerequisite length that you're looking for around this sort of track. And given a lot of the players around him, a Davis Thompson's really been priced up. Harris English, I know he's been looking a little bit better, but you have to think that's a little bit too expensive for him. Luca List overpriced. Justin Rose certainly overpriced at $8,100. You're not only getting a solid value in terms of the price tag, but clearly, at least in my opinion, right, the highest upside play in this range as well. So $7,900, I like the floor. Only 10% owned at this point, which might end up ticking up a little bit. Again, it's only here on a Tuesday. Typically, we're making these videos Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, that sort of thing. We have a little bit more mature ownership. That might tick up to something closer to like 11, maybe 11.5, 12% ownership. But as of right now, I love the ownership, love the price tag, and I'll be getting a ton of the Canadian. Next up, we've got ourselves Kurt Kitayama, another ball striking specialist at $7,600. The one real worry, at least at this point I have, is his putting numbers on POA. He doesn't have a massive sample, but is losing over a stroke per round on POA. So you have to hope that that's a small sample size issue. But if it is, the ball striking stats are just outrageously good. And I know over the last 36, you can see he's gaining over a third of a stroke per round off the tee, close to it on approach. And around the green is where he's criminally underrated. You can see he's gaining over half a stroke per round. That's what we're looking for. Somebody that can gain from tee to green. That's how Luke List went out there and won last year. And the putting numbers on POA can be a little bit worrisome there. But over the years, we've seen some sorry putters have success, not just a Luke List. You've seen plenty of top 5s, top 10s from other players that don't necessarily have the most consistent flat stick. Think Willie Z was in that playoff last year against Luke List, not the most consistent putter that we have on tour there. So good old Kurt Kitayama, I guess if there's one thing to have, kind of going the wrong way this week, it would be that flat stick. So just 8.3% ownership. I'm a sucker for playing this guy just because of how stout he is from tee to green. and at a course like we have here at Torrey Pines. The North Course, not so much, right? Like they're going to play one round at the North Course. If you guys haven't seen the breakdown, right, there are 2 courses this week. But for 3 out of the 4 rounds, that ball striking is going to reign king. And if we can get Kitayama to the weekend, I like his chances to move up the board. Has had success at difficult tracks in the past. I mean, nearly won the Honda Classic last year. I got to see a lot of that in person, hit a bunch of fairways off the tee. He's one of those, long and accurate players. And if you take a look at the event history, I don't know, did he play here last year is the question. I'm not entirely sure whether he did or not. He did. He missed the cut here last year. A lot of players have a volatile course history. I mean, you look at Pendrith, he finished in 16th last year. That's great and all. But if there's one course to not really look at event history, it'd be here, because a lot of the winners also have 2-3 missed cuts mixed in. A Jason Day is kind of like the outlier there, right? He's been extremely consistent there at the Farmers. John Rahm has also been extremely consistent around this golf course. There's really only like 3 or 4 guys in the field that have that consistent course history. So I'm not going to let that talk me off him. Kitayama, he's got that skill set we're looking for, $7,600. And as of right now, 8% owned. Count me in on a good old Hurt the Kurt. Next up, we've got Will Gordon, it's actually not 8,800. If he was $8,000, it'd be a different story. $7,400 Will Gordon, who's coming in with great POA numbers. And again, this is another small sample size thing. So, I'm not playing Will Gordon for the putting numbers here. You're playing Will Gordon this week for the ball striking metrics, which is pretty much have everyone enamored with him at this point. He's gaining close to 2/3 of a stroke per round off the tee. The approach numbers are a positive. And around the green and putting, well, we know that's not his specialty. He's been right around a neutral, right? Slightly negative in both of those categories. And that's led to a pretty damn solid stretch of form. You take a look at some of the recent starts here. For Will Gordon, he missed the cut last time out, but 28th, 15th, 43rd, 3rd, and 35th. And something that a lot of people didn't know last week, myself included when I played a Will Gordon, is first off, he hardly missed the cut. He was right there on the cut line, essentially. I believe maybe finished like 2 shots off of it at the end of the day, but he was dealing with severe flu symptoms. Something that came up, they talked about it on the broadcast. The ESPN Plus reporters were talking about potentially even to going to the store to get the medication for Will Gordon out there. So I would assume that, sickness aside, he probably would have played a lot better. And now that he's had a week to recover, he should be 100% at this point. At a course that fits his game perfectly. I think that's why we're getting him at 11.5%, because at this price tag last week, he was higher owned. He was closer to like 12-13% at a golf course that didn't really fit his game as well, right? He's not the best putter. The Amex has been called a putting contest over the years. Well, this golf course is almost tailor-made for Will Gordon. So you would expect him at a similar sort of price tag to be relatively high owned, and that's not the case right now. So 11.5%, it's high compared to a lot of the other players around him, but I think it's warranted. And honestly, he's fixing right now to be somebody I'm getting well over the field on. Our last pick here in terms of values is going to be Matthew Nesmith, $9,100. He's another one of those ball strikers, at least of late, that's kind of just gone under the radar. He didn't play much during the fall. Didn't play over there at the Sony because he didn't win an event last year. Actually, he actually may have played the Sony. No, he didn't play Century Tournament Champions. That's the event that I was alluding to there. But yeah, also didn't play over there at Sony. Was able to tee it up last week. Ended up missing the cut. Another one of those players that had a decent week, right? Still shot 6-7 under par. But because of that 10 under cut line, didn't end up making it to the weekend. And the shots gained metrics, they go back for a relatively long sample size. Again, he hasn't played all that much during the fall, but he's gaining pretty much across all 4 categories, just the slightest loser when it comes to the around the green play. We know that he's known for the ball striking, can hit plenty of fairways. In terms of the distance, he's like PGA Tour average, so he's not going to wow you in that category, which I guess is the one thing that's really left on the table there for Matthew Nesmith. But the approach play is excellent. The putting on POA has been a huge bright spot for him over the last few years. So I like the POA putting. I like the approach numbers. Around the green is good enough for a Nesmith. He's not going to wow you in that category. In terms of event history, let's take a look at that. That's another player that has been consistent over the years, but hasn't had that top end upside. So we're obviously hoping that he can break through, actually crack the top 10, top 15, that sort of thing. But the skill set fit makes sense, right? That's why he's been consistent here. He's got that ball striking. He's going to hit plenty of fairways, plenty of greens regulation, which around the South Course is how you print money. He just has to make it to the weekend, hopefully make a few putts on this POA surface, which he's found some success on over the years here, and only 6.2% owned. And a lot of that's because of the form, right? He's only played, I mean, what is it, like 3 times over the last 8 events, and 2 of them are a missed cut. One of them's a 53rd place, and what was that event? The Houston Open, an event that he was also relatively high owned at. So, well, yeah, the community out there aren't very high in a Matthew Nesmith, which is usually when I try to get on him, because he gets chalky quick. When he starts to gain momentum, when he starts to post those elite off the tee and elite approach numbers, like he's more than capable of doing, he's going to pop up in your model as a top 10 play. Like he'll go from like you can see right here, he's number 23 in my model ranking right now. He'll pop up there to, number 14 at certain points during the season. And that's when everyone's going to play him. He's going to be like $8,000 at that point, and maybe like 15% owned. So I prefer to play him when he's cheap, $7,100. We kind of know who he is, right? That ball striking first sort of player. And he's single digit owned. So we're getting both of those things this week, which is going to make me a buyer on Matthew Nesmith. All right, fellas, that is all I've got for this week's value picks. Before you're hopping out of here, go ahead and comment down below who your favorite play priced $8,000 and below is on DraftKings. Also, smash that like button and stop on by for our live stream tonight. I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but it will be at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. We'll be going through the weather, all of your live questions, the GPP chalk, some lineup construction notes, prize picks, whatever you guys need to touch on before lock to go out there, make sure you're prepared and cash out for this week. So looking forward to it, guys. Again, appreciate you stopping by, supporting the channel, consuming all the content that you do. I'll see you guys for the live stream tonight. Best of luck with your lineups. I'll catch you guys next time.